In the words of kandiburruss, you can keep your effing apology. We had another great episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta, from Sanya and Kenya getting into it again, to Marlo being delusional again, and to Drew hurting her leg again. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this. What's up, kinfolk, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, do me a favor and subscribe. And if you already are subscribed, do me a favor and get notified, so you will know whenever I upload new videos to the channel. Alright, kinfolk, come on into the house. We have a lot to talk about, and it all centers around this week's episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta, where the drama was jam-packed and the good times never ended. So I'm going to jump right into it, and we're going to just discuss it all. Kinfolk, I cannot believe we're at another episode where Marlo is trying to gaslight someone, and particularly this time, Kandi. Now, this was very frustrating to me, and Kandi made a very good, valid point about Marlo. It's like Marlo does these things where she talks about you like a dog. She hits below the belt, and she just steadily attacks. And then the next day or the next scene, she comes back with this blanketed, like, fake apology. Or she comes back and she tries to gaslight you into thinking like, oh, well, nothing wrong. Hey, girl, what's going on? What? When that happened? You know, it wasn't even that bad. Why are you acting like that? And so that form of gaslight is very frustrating to some people. Now, if you kind of fake, you can probably give it back to her. Like, girl, ain't nothing wrong. And then go back and talk about like a dog behind her back. But if you real like Kandi, it's like, I ain't fooling with you. I ain't effing with you. The stuff you said last night, that was disrespectful, it was low, and it was disgusting. And Marlo knows that. And that's why she got frustrated, because Kandi wouldn't give her that attention and accept that blanket apology, because Marlo knew, in essence, she was wrong. And so, with that being said, it leads me to the next issue that I kind of found with Kenya and Sanya. And it's this. I want to be perfectly honest with you. Kenya and Sheree were picking at Sanya. They really were picking at Sanya, because Sanya has been, I keep calling Sanya. Sanya has been a very great host. This has been one of the best cast trips we had in a while. And I knew last week that Kenya was going to have a pretty rough week on this week's episode, but I didn't know to what extent, and now I see. And now I can confidently say that Kenya and Sheree definitely were picking, because it was like, you know, she extended the invitation, but then she also gave you an option. If you didn't want to come on the to her shoot, you can go on a catamaran and enjoy yourself. Food, cruising, music. That was so thoughtful of Sanya and her team for putting that together like that. And I really felt bad for her in that moment. The way Sheree and Kenya were coming for her. And the way they was coming for her, I was like, man, okay, I can see why Ross was getting mad, because Sanya was making valid points. I'm working. I'm not going to stop working and accommodate you when I thought everything was already solidified, when I have a plan for you to do this and do that and do that, and when I have an itinerary just in case you can't make it already planned. So it wasn't like I just left you out to dry and left you with nothing to do. And she made a very good point. And as she was making those points, Kenya and Sheree kept pounding on her. And I noticed that Kandi and I want to say maybe Drew at some point, but definitely Kandi did jump to Sanya's defense. And at first I was like, okay, Kandi, you can jump in, because you're normally like the person, the reason or reasonable voice in all this. And then when Kandi didn't jump in, I realized what was going on. And what was going on is this. Kenya and Sheree were just hazing Sanya. They were just hazing her. It was an old school Real Housewives of Atlanta hazing session. And it was a hazing session because the way they set the scene up. Kenya and Sheree knew that Sanya was making some very valid points. And you can always tell when the ladies are trying to make a scene or trying to produce a scene is when a person is making valid points, and you would think the other person would be like, okay, yeah, those are valid points. But they were like, No, that's not a valid point. No, that's not good enough. And they just kept hitting her. And so Sanya just reacted and Ross reacted. And they got a reaction out of each other. Now, if she was an OG, she probably could feed into it and throw some things back that Kenya and Sheree have done to her. But this is her first season and she doesn't have that catalog of things like throw in their face. But what we saw there was old school Real Housewives of Atlanta hazing session that made for really good television. So I'm thinking to myself, now Kenya, hold on now. What are you talking about? She is 100% correct. But then I had to revert back to my mind. These are two OGs and veterans. So saying she's going to learn that. And once she learns what's going on and how to make a scene, it's going to get better. Moving on to my next thing. Speaking of making scenes and speaking of doing this and doing that, I realized something. When you guys hear the word bad edit, when you hear the term she's receiving a bad edit this season, or it's just the way production is editing her to make you think a certain way, I have a prime example of what we mean when we say that, or what is meant when you hear someone else say that, and it's this. You remember how they were on the bus waiting to go to the next event and Sanya was calling Kenya, and she didn't answer, and she became like 40 minutes late, then a whole hour late, and had to end up leaving her. And then the scene cut to Kenya in her room on her balcony, taking pictures, taking videos, acting all nonchalant by getting down to the bus. We found out that was footage actually from the first day and not the day that she was going to meet with Sanya. Even though she had some of the same outfit on, we found out from Kenya herself that that's not the same scene. And when you look at the thing that she was wearing, it shows it wasn't the same scene. However, it created this opinion in your heads that, okay, she's just disrespecting Sanya on the trip. She doesn't really want to be here. This, that, third, fourth, fifth, and the sixth. Now I see why production did it, and they did it because, they're trying to set up a scene. They're trying to set up a crescendo to the drama. So I understood it in that aspect of what was really going on. But that is an example of when someone says, they're setting up a scene or they're editing someone to look a certain way. So now you know. Alright, Kinfo. And the next thing I want to talk about is Marlo and her complex that she has in her head. Marlo has this Nene complex. And I don't know I know where she got it from. But I just honestly thought that Marlo was more of a unique person and much more of her own person to do her own thing and not kind of follow what someone has already done or what someone was doing. But I realized something, that Marlo does have like this Nene complex, that where she feels like everyone is supposed to gravitate towards her. Everyone's supposed to think everything she says and does is right and it is correct. And this, that, third, fourth, fifth, and the sixth, when it comes to drama, she's never wrong. She's never wrong. Everyone is never right. And we saw a glimpse of that when she was in the scenes and she was I think was talking to Sanya, and Drew was like, Marlo has said some negative things about Sanya. This, that, third, fourth, fifth, and the sixth. And it goes to show you that Marlo really does want Sanya's attention and wants her love and adoration, because she said that she just a follower, she just doing this and doing that. And you look at Marlo, what is she doing? Just following Sanya around, being like the Sanya teacher's pet, trying to get on Sanya's good side, doing all the things that make Sanya feel like she wants to be on the trip and that she has an ally in her. And so with that being said, it goes to show you that Marlo, she does have some method to her madness, but I would wish she would really stop playing those Nene type games and just be her own person. The next thing, Kinfo. Speaking of Drew, Kandi looked like she was very exhausted with Drew when she was explaining her acting methods to Kandi, and she was sitting there and Kandi was rolling her eyes, acting like she didn't want to listen, didn't want to be there, and wasn't listening. And I'm thinking to myself, Kandi, I know Drew's method may sound a little exhausting, but let's not act like Drew is not a good actress. Drew is a pretty good actress, actually. And her method may seem a little crazy, but I think it works. Or at least it works for her. It may not work for Kandi, but it's definitely working for Drew. And so I was thinking to myself, Kandi, you might want to take a couple of notes here, because I think Drew may know what she's talking about. And speaking of Drew, why in the world did Ralph let Drew get on that track and run around acting like she's Gail Divas or somebody. You know your wife has broken her leg. Drew is probably still in rehab or in therapy getting her foot or her leg back up to working at 100%, and you allow her to go there and hurt herself, and now she's hurt herself, and now you got to deal with this. Now, Ralph, you got to leave your job 2 days, 2 hours early to go pick up the kids from work because Drew can't drive. Now you got to be the one running up and down the stairs doing this, that, third, fourth, fifth, and the sixth because Drew is not 100% mobile. And you know Ralph knew he had messed up when he let her go on that track and hurt herself. Because when she was like, I think I ruptured my Achilles. And he was like, oh, no, don't say that. You ain't do that. You probably just sprung it. It's probably a sprain. No, don't say that. And I'm looking to myself like, you know, effed up now. Now she immobile again for maybe another couple of months, and now you back to being super dead. And speaking of Ralph, let me tell you something, man. That is an Aquarius to his heart. Let me tell you something. Ralph is an Aquarius to his heart. Just the other episode, everybody was like, Ralph ain't this. Ralph should have adopted that man daughter. Why they ain't do Ralph like that? Then Ralph read the excerpt from his book, and all the ladies was like, he's such a good man, Savannah. He's such a good man. And Ralph was all laughing and cheesing and smiling. And you know what he was thinking? Like, got y'all again. Now I'm back to being the nice guy. But I think genuinely, like I told you on the last review, I think Ralph is genuinely a good guy. He just gets bad edits. And kinfolk, I think that's all I have really. And honestly, it's a great episode. Another great episode. And I think Kenya's going to have another rough week with Sanya. But, and let me say this, kinfolk. I don't know if y'all noticed this, but Sanya is probably the best newbie housewife that we have ever had. Sanya dresses very well. And she knows her body type, and she looks just very regal whenever she puts on clothes. And I guess that comes from being an Olympic gold medalist, like a gold champion, because she's always so very regal and she dresses very well. I just want to add that little caveat into it before I wrap up. But kinfolk, great episode. Can't wait for next week. We're gonna see Sanya and Kenya clash again. We're gonna see Ross turn up. Yeah. And so we should be expecting another great episode from the ladies. Alright, kinfolk, if you enjoyed this video, as always, please like, share, subscribe, comment, and I see you guys over on the next one. Peace.